Kahane, hey, congratulations on your new
Thank you.
documentary, Creed, USA.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm excited.
More of a congratulations. It is it is going to be showcased at the South by Southwest, one of the most prestigious film festivals in the world. How do you feel about that?
Oh, I couldn't be more excited for South by Southwest, first of all, but also I think to have a film that's so timely shown in the state of Texas is very exciting to me. I hope it draws in all kinds of people and leads to like great discussions and moves people. I couldn't be more happy to be at South by.
Most excellent. So tell us, what sparked you to do this documentary on this small town in Colorado?
So the town of Creede, which the film is named after, is a very teeny little mining town. Like 300-ish people live there. I mean, when I say tiny, it's very tiny. And I live on the East Coast, and I happened to just come across an article in the New York Times about a theater company that was in this little town. And I was, a theater person to a degree, always behind the scenes in college, and I like a good theater story. So I read the article, and I was kind of like amazed by the story of how a theater company came to this small mining town. And at the same time, it was 2021. The pandemic was happening. I uh, was kind of living in this bubble, not just pandemic related, but social value related and all that kind of stuff. And it was very comfortable in there, but I was really starting to question if that was healthy. So when I read an article about a theater company in a very conservative town, I just thought that was kind of interesting in these times. So I kind of took it from there, and it turned out just to be a really incredible experience as people opened their doors for me. And I very gratefully got to be exposed to all different kinds of points of view and most importantly, the people as humans, as human beings. So that's kind of what got it started.
It's actually funny because I always find how documentary filmmakers think that they actually have one film, and when they start doing it, it becomes something else. So tell us how this somehow evolved from from filming a theater company, and then you get into the changing, cultural and political landscapes of a very small town.
Well, in a way, it was the theater company was kind of my entree to the town. It was a world I was familiar with. And so that was my starting point. But I did come at it with a curiosity about how, a theater company with progressive values in a conservative town with mostly conservative audiences kind of works. And so that little question is kind of what propelled me at the time. It's all about timing. And then, kind of once I got to the town and I learned more and I started meeting people, um, I kind of, and I met people who, think differently than I do. And I started looking at how the town functions together and had this realization that I kind of thought this town was living in a way that's probably healthier for our society as a whole than I was living in a comfortable bubble. And that's really what motivated me the whole time to kind of follow this town for a few years and see what unfolded. And, it's the people who led the way.
It's fascinating. You're right. It is actually the people because I have never seen some people where they're so kind and nice each other, even though they're so different from each other. I mean, I live in the city, and I barely even know my next door neighbor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I feel like Creed is a microcosm of our world right now. And it's just on a very scalable level. So you can see it play out. But the fact of the matter is, it's not a utopia. It's not a perfect place at all. But the town, what they don't have a choice to retreat into bubbles. It's just too small. So they have to get out of their comfort zone. They have to talk to people, and things aren't just issues. They're humans, they're neighbors. And so I think it's just an incredible model for everybody right now of engagement, like just the necessity. We have to engage. Creede has to do it really for its survival as a community and out of a mutual love of the people there for their community. But I think there's lessons to take kind of for all of us, even if we live in, big cities or suburbs or any other kind of place. So I learned a lot, and and it had a profound effect on me and my point of view.
So true. Now, I'm gonna take it that it didn't require too much convincing for your subjects. So tell us how that process actually was handled, and which subjects you wanted to pick for your narrative for this film.
Yeah, well, as I said, I kind of my starting point was the theater because I had read about the theater. There were names and a name in the article that I could reach out to just on with an email to start a conversation. And so that's really the seed of it. But one person introduced me to the next, and then to the next, and I mean, I couldn't be more of an outsider arriving in this little town. No, and that's the only way to connect with people, I think, or there is through other people. So I think the fact that people were starting to introduce me and we would have these substantive conversations that were warm and full of curiosity and honesty, I think really helped. And when it came to, the theater was not a hard get because uh, I do have some theater background. We were able to have connect on a lot of things. Some of the other people in the film were a little more guarded at first, and it took a few conversations. And if I'm going to be honest, they were more guarded, and I was a little more apprehensive. But the main thing is once you really start talking to a person, they like your viewpoints of them kind of exponentially expand, and it just becomes like one human talking to another human. And so they would say yes, and the majority of people in the town said yes, which was amazing. We got a few no's, but not a lot. And obviously respected those. But for the people who we did include in the film, you asked kind of how we went about choosing subjects. We really wanted the points of view of the town representing the full spectrum. Obviously, we wanted people who had storylines that were potentially compelling as we followed. You never know in a documentary how things are going to play out. We didn't in this
Mhm.
film. And so part of it was, going on your gut feelings about people, and also knowing that this town does have an incredible chorus of really colorful, amazing, interesting people full of surprises and nuance. So it was, I think, pretty quick to figure out like who could stand in for various viewpoints of this town, and and who were comfortable on camera and honest, and I mean not dishonest meaning they were not dishonest people, but they were just going to be honest and open about their feelings. um,
Was it a challenge for you to balance all these political viewpoints in a documentary? Because I've watched a lot of documentaries, and a lot of documentarians want to push a certain type of point of view or an agenda, and it seems like you want to represent all in this case.
yeah, I wanted to, I have to say, like, I in the making of the film, I never asked one person, who did you vote for? It really, in the end, wasn't about that. It was more an examination of like, how are we going to work through these issues or find compromises that work for this town. And so it was never blatantly about politics, honestly, even though in our world we live in, everything is politicized. It's not like you can avoid it in a way. But but we just wanted to, without judgment, present these people, respect them in a respectful way, and let viewers make their own decisions. And also allow them to be surprised by these people and the nuance in them, as we were along the way.
Now, production-wise, you mentioned earlier that you followed Creede as a town for years. Tell us how this actually worked, because I'm assuming you didn't move there, so you just went back and forth.
So yeah, so I didn't move there. I'm, a mom with kids, and Creede is about a 14-hour trip from my home on the East Coast in New Jersey to, the cabin that you would rent to stay in with your crew in Creede. Because and that door to door, it's about 14 hours. It's a drive, it's a flight, it's a big, big journey. So we went back and forth and used crews primarily from local crews, meaning they would only have to drive about 4 hours to be there from either Santa Fe or another part of Colorado. And and for myself and my producer and other crew members, who had to get there from the East Coast, you'd have to build in this travel time. But and also adjusting to 9,000 feet elevation every time you went. Um, but the fact of the matter is that we went back and forth and stayed in touch with our subjects to see what was going on. And sometimes, like for a Board of Education meeting, just one person would go and film it. And sometimes, the maximum number we had of a crew was 5 people. The littlest amount was one person. It was usually about three. So very small crew. And we just went back and forth and back and forth. It's a really beautiful drive from Denver to this town. So I just learned to lean into it and appreciate the gorgeous scenery going by. I like car trips, so that's road trips. So that helped. But yeah, I went back and forth and back and forth. And I think that earned me some cred with the Creede folks because they're not used to having, people kind of put that much effort into making the long trek to their little town. But it was highly worth it.
I'll admit it. That is some dedication. And one of the things that a documentary like this, especially since you're talking about a town that has been, been around for quite some time, it begs the question is, how did you know when to end your documentary?
Well, one of the biggest factors is money. We have it's an independent film. We've raised the funding for it independently. We have a limited budget. So we had always budgeted for a certain number of days, all across the couple of years and hoped our storylines would play out as we needed. We also uh, used our time on the ground there very, very judiciously and wisely. But I also felt like there was a natural end to many of our storylines or um, conclusion in a lot of ways. And for the ones that didn't conclude, I felt like that is okay too, because, we try to like imply like life is going to go on in this town. And this is, we've dipped into it. And this is, what happened during this period of time. Some of the stories resolve, some don't, some are, ongoing and just like life. So yeah, but yeah, it came to a natural end, partially because we felt like we had acquired the materials, the footage we needed to really properly represent this town and what we experienced there. And then part of it was, I mean, just practical, just budget related. You can't just keep going forever.
Sounds good. Well, Kahani, let me wrap it up with one last question because
Sure.
audiences at South by Southwest will have a chance to watch Creed USA and hopefully more film festivals or other avenues down the road. What is the one most important take you hope they walk away with after watching your film?
Um, I feel like the most important thing that I hope people take away is um, that maybe they ask themselves some of the same questions I asked myself from being there. How am I, uh, how, is how am I living in my community? How am I interacting with other people? And to really understand that if we don't engage with people who we disagree with as a whole, we're kind of we're we're going to be in even more trouble because then I think the divides are just going to go get greater and greater, and that to me is a very scary thought. So hopefully people will be surprised by some of the people they meet here in this film, and they'll ask themselves questions that you know make them make different choices and to have different opinions about things and maybe open minds a little bit on every side.
Well, explained it. You created a fascinating snapshot of America with Creed USA. Kahani, thank you very much for speaking to us about your documentary and do enjoy South by
Thank,
Southwest.
thank you. Thank you so much, Gig. Nice to talk to you.